Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is my guide to Potence, where I'm going to talk about the discipline, the powers, which clans have it, how it's changed between the kind of old world and V5, bit talking about Met, interspersed with some of my thoughts and feelings and experiences with it. Kind of a bit of a primer for Potence. So I'll start off with a bit of Tim Bradstreet art there, which I believe it's Tim Bradstreet, which for me is a quintessential art for Vampire the Masquerade. It always takes me back to mid-90s. But anyway, I'll start off talking about Potence with a quote. "You only underestimate our strength once," which is attributed to Clan Bruja. Now, Potence is simple. It's one of the core physical disciplines, the other two being celerity and fortitude. It's supernatural strength, and whilst it's not the most exciting, or dare I say the most sexy, it's pretty versatile and has grown some interesting powers beyond its mechanics of its base origins, as we shall see. It's held by several clans, Bruja, Nosferatu, Giovanni and La Sombra. Obviously, the Giovanni go through a change in V5 to the Hecata clans, and the Hecata lose Potence as a basic power. Now, the Bruja, having it in combination with celerity, makes them particularly nasty close combat specialists, especially in early editions when the powers work together. So, if you had 3 celerity, you got 3 extra actions, and if you had Potence, as we'll see, that's adding extra successes to the damage you cause when you hit. So you can start seeing how that would start mechanically adding up. But let's talk about the clans that have it. Nosferatu. The Nosferatu benefit from having a brutal strike from the shadows, like an alpha strike. So they're using obfuscate to stay hidden, and then the Potence when they need to take down something. I mean, they've still got to, at times, subdue prey. You know, they're often not going to have the ease of hunting that, say, the Toreador might have as they go through a nightclub. So they might have to rely on more brutal methods of subduing their victims. And it's also a handy way to deal with obstructions down in the sewers or move around the sewers. Often the Nosferatu will take the below city for themselves. And, you know, there's going to be times when you're going to have to open doors, sewer lids, etc. So strength's going to help you there. The La Sombra and Giovanni. So in previous editions, they did share Dominate, Potence, and the Giovanni would have Necromancy, and the La Sombra would have Obtenebration. I always see the La Sombra and the Giovanni as kind of men in suits, but unlike the Ventru, where they're quite refined with it, the La Sombra and the Giovanni always felt a hair's trigger away from violence. And actually, in V5, they would kind of go on and share Oblivion, with Necromancy and of the Obtenebration being different parts of it. Now, La Sombra is particularly nasty with Potence, as it can add to different Obtenebration powers of strength as well. And for me, thinking about La Sombra having Potence, it's kind of like, if we look at the La Sombra and the Ventru as being similar but kind of almost reflections of each other, the Ventru have the fortitude to resist the damage, and the La Sombra have the Potence to do the damage. And I've always seen the La Sombra as being a more active clan than the Ventru. The Bruja having it, like it says before, sheer raw combat power. There's a reason why the Bruja are feared as close combat specialists, and it's Potence and celerity combined. Now, in the version 2 of Vampire the Masquerade, I don't have the revised book, so I can't see the tabletop mechanics it changed but it wasn't too dissimilar, is it gives an automatic success on strength rolls, 1 per level. In combat, those counted on the damage roll. So if I'm punching somebody and I've got Potence 3, I'm doing +3 successes on the damage roll. However, as I've discussed, disciplines are more than just dots on a sheet. They should also affect how you feel. The White Wolf book that made me start really thinking about disciplines and how you feel was actually the Requiem guide called The Blood, but was ace for understanding how a character would feel with particular levels of disciplines. And Potence should give you the feeling of power and supremacy. I almost feel when I've played a character with high levels of Potence, like the Blood Pack walking into the nightclub, I think it was Blade 2, where I think it's Ron Perlman's character turns around and says, I could kill every one of those half-bloods in here. And that should enable you to hold yourself with a feeling of confidence. Now let's start talking about Mind's Eye Theatre. With Met, using different mechanic based to tabletop, Potence started to have some power effects. So things you can do. So still based around obviously raw strength. What we saw was level 1, you could cause lethal damage. There was 3 damage levels, sort of bruising, lethal and aggravated. So level 1, your close combat attacks did lethal damage. Level 2 give you a might retest, so in feats of strength, you could use might as a retest. Level 3 give you the use of a bomb. So Mind's Eye Theatre basically tested stone, scissors, paper. If I won, happy days. If we drew, we compared how many traits we had. Now, celerity and Potence both give you the bomb, which was this symbol, and the bomb, thumbs up, the bomb could blow up rock and beat paper, but was cut by scissors. It couldn't fuse to the bomb. Level 4 give you a free trait bid. So when you, in feats of strength, so when you generally create your character, say 753, 5 is your physical traits, you'll pick 3 names like brawny or brutal or dexterous or wiry. And every time you do an action, you're meant to bid a trait which fits that action you're doing. So for example, it could be I'm brawny enough to connect, I'm brutal enough to cause you some damage in the brawl we're having. And this gives you a free trait bid, so you weren't risking any of your ones, which is pretty powerful. And finally, level 5 was win all ties. So if we both pulled rock, I'd Potence level 5, I'm going to win all ties. They may not sound much, but mechanically they were very powerful, believe me. And I've said before in my celerity video that the powers in tabletop combined mechanically very well because they're just dots on your sheet. But actually, in Mind's Eye Theatre, if you had celerity level 5 and Potence level 5, you know, you've got 2 win all ties. That mechanically doesn't give you any bonus. So I felt a bit sorry for the poor Bruja. Now, Elder Powers, what did Potence start doing for Elder Powers? Elder Powers, you start having choices, whereas in the first 5 dots of your discipline, they're always fixed. So Elder Powers, Potence start to have some more varied applications, from the ability to strike from a distance, for example, Fist of Cain, or create an earth, like a mini earthquake. You could leap through the air with a relentless pursuit, to applications that delayed damage or have small actions resulting in full and brutal damage, such as a gentle rebuke. There's also some powers which are really interesting based around the ability to smith weapons. And one of the things about Potence is if you use it regularly on just a sword, or it would often, those swords would sort of break because of the raw strength you're exhibiting when you're smashing them up with Potence, whereas this allowed you to create better weapons and weapons that were able to resist Potence. Then we come to V5. So V5, with the disciplines in V5, each level would often have a choice, and you would pick from those choices. Now, if you didn't like a higher level, for example, if I didn't like the level 4 picks, I could go back and pick one of the lower level picks. So the choices: level 1, lethal body, allowed you to serious damage to mortals, causing aggravated to damage to mortals. It also allowed you to ignore 1 level of armor per your level of potence. So I like that, because if you are going to go back and buy a power, by the time you get to level 4, level 5, and you've got this power, it's actually the effects of it stacking up quite nicely. Or soaring leap, you could jump meters sort of in the air or vertically. So if you're jumping straight up, it was 3 times your potence level, or times 5 horizontally. So what, level 5, you could jump 15 meters into the air. Again, yeah, like I say, the more potent you grew, the more powerful that effect would be, and that's quite a vampiric sort of signature power, isn't it? The ability to kind of leap distances and act supernatural. Of course, you're a vampire, you're supernatural, but sort of have supernatural levels of movement and strength. Level 2, prowess. Add potence level to your unarmed damage and strength tests. It's just one choice, but basically gives you the previous potence, so the kind of old world of potence. So the more levels of potence you've got, the more you add into your unarmed damage and strength test. Level 3, now this is really interesting, brutal feed. So it allows you to feed almost instantly, causing aggravated damage to mortals. So normally if you're feeding, it's going to take some time, but this allows you to grab somebody, brutally feed quickly from them. But it only does superficial damage to vampires, but it can be used to drain vampires as well, and cause them hunger checks and all sorts of problems. And can be used in combat, and is very brutal and very messy. Spark of Rage. This is a presence amalgam. This allows a vampire to rile up a person or crowd, and it can cause a fury frenzy in vampires. Now, in previous editions, Bruja had some powers. I think Spark of Rage, Scourge of Electro, and Burning Wrath. And this is kind of leaning into that Spark of Rage power. And with it being an amalgam power with presence, obviously presence being a Bruja power, it kind of almost feels like it's been signature written for Bruja. The other level 3 power is Uncanny Grip. This allows vampires to climb on any surface and hang from them as well. And I think like smooth metallic surfaces, you couldn't pretty much anything else you're able to get a grip on. And yet this speaks to me, they're Lost Boys, where they're all kind of dangling from the rafters in the Haven by the Sea, or even Bram Stoker's Dracula, where you see Dracula climbing up the sides of his castle. A really thematic power. Level 4, Draft of Might, the ability to pass your potence on to others by you creating a draft of your blood which they drink. Level 5, Earth Shock. So this previously was an Elder power. Smash the ground and cause a mini earthquake to knock over and cause your victims to lose their action. You know what, that's become especially powerful considering if you're running your 3 rounds and you're out vampire V5 combat. Or Fist of Cain, again another Elder power brought down, cause aggravated hand damage to mortals and vampires. Again, it's a very messy power, and Fist of Cain kind of rending your victim apart. And I said earlier about the Bruja powers that they had before, and the amalgam power that they had with Presence 3. Burning Wrath basically allowed your hand damage to do aggravated damage, so that allows you to kind of replicate that. Now, what I'm thinking about potence and how it gets used for characters, I find level 1 and 2 powers all great. Now, I've never been interested in Draft of Might. You know, the thing about Draft of Might is it's about supporting other people, so maybe it's better for leadership characters, but players are always going to be wary about becoming blood bonded to a character, so I don't know how many applications you're going to get out of it in your coterie. But then, with there only being one level 4 power, it gives you plenty of choice to change that for one of the lower powers. So how would I build my character? So Nosferatu, I would tend towards lethal body and prowess. Brutal feed for quick mugging street feedings, or uncanny grip to crawl around and spy, or just be able to like be up in the sewers and maybe hanging off the ceilings when people are looking for you down on the ground. Level 4, I would pick up a second level 1 power if I felt I needed the alternative level 3 power. So yeah, that brutal feed or uncanny grip would be what I'm looking for. When I get to level 5, I'd fancy Earthshock for the evasion potential. You know, Fist of Cain would take me into a kind of a brutal close combat character, but you know, I'm down in the sewers, I'm a sewer rat, I'm trying to escape my quarry. Earthshock, knock them over, and then Unseen Presence or Obfuscate to dodge out this site. Now for Bruja, I'd like Spark of Rage and Fist of Cain, as it's almost Burning Wrath and Spark of Rage. And La Sombra, and a similar sort of picks to Giovanni, I would consider Draft of Might as it fits with my position as leader of La Sombra. And as La Sombra, I don't really care about my underlings, and I'd probably put them in positions where they'd need to take my blood. I doubt I would look at Brutal Feed, as I feel as La Sombra, I'd never put myself in a position where I would need to. I'd always like to think of my La Sombra being superior and always in control, and never having to have that brutal quick feed. So that's my overview of Potence, talking about the powers in the clans. It's always been a useful, if unglamorous, power. V5 really does make the physical disciplines more interesting and feel more thematic, and just gives a few different edges about how they look and feel. So if you've came this far in my video, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more. I've got all the other disciplines to finish off on the channel, and some Montreal by Night cover, some Mind's Eye Theatre videos written, and actually some stuff about military history as well. So it's not just about Vampire Ado, and there's board games that I've thrown in as well. This channel is a real hobby of mine. I love talking about the hobbies I'm involved with, so it's just a way for me to engage and do that. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on Potence, and I look forward to chatting to you and seeing you again in another video. So that's goodbye for now, and I will bomb out. Right, bye bye.